Sometimes I feel like she doesn't love me. I feel like he doesn't understand. Sometimes I feel like I just want her to go away. So this is 3 statements I've just made, and they're pretty commonplace statements. You've heard them and you probably haven't even thought twice about it. I'm going to ask you now to think twice about it. And here's why. Statements such as these raise an inner conflict. They raise an inner conflict in the recipient, and they raise an inner conflict in the person doing the speaking. And that conflict is because what we're presenting as a feeling statement is actually a thought statement. So listen to it again. Sometimes I feel like he doesn't love me. I feel like she doesn't understand. Okay? See if you can recognize the conflict. And what the conflict is it's a thought. It's not a feeling. So a quick response could be, okay, that's a thought, not a feeling. So let's take the statement again. I feel like he doesn't understand. Well, that's a thought. It's not a feeling. And that's where the conflict rises, because the brain hears the word I feel and is waiting for a feeling word or a feeling expression, and it doesn't come. What comes is a thought. So there's a technique. Once we've brought awareness to this and we can start to notice if it's how it affects our experience of ourselves when we're in dialogue with someone else, and we can also start to notice or bring awareness to how it affects the experience, how we experience ourselves when we're the ones communicating this way, and it's very beneficial to look at both aspects of it. There's a technique that we can start to apply that helps to bring some clarity in the communication approach. And that technique is just to ask a simple question or first make a simple statement. And the statement is, okay, that's a thought, not a feeling. So let me say it again, and we'll apply the statement that I just shared. So I'm in a dialogue, I'm in a conversation, and I hear myself say, I feel like he doesn't understand. The follow-up would be, okay, that's a thought, not a feeling. And then the next statement would be, when I believe the thought, he doesn't understand, I feel blank. So one more time. Sometimes I feel like she doesn't love me. Okay, that's a thought, not a feeling. And when I believe the thought that she doesn't love me, I feel blank. Hurt, sad, rejected, abandoned, alone, worried, whatever that feeling might be. And it's a very powerful technique because, as I said earlier, it gets us in touch with our experience. It helps to bring clarity to what it is we're trying to communicate. That's the real issue, is the clarity in the communication. And oftentimes what happens following a statement like this, following a statement, and we could even make it a dialogue where it's a direct statement to the other person. Sometimes I feel like you don't love me. And if we pay close attention, more often than not, the conversation either ends there or it takes a 90-degree turn and it goes somewhere else. Well, why does it do that? It does that because the recipient doesn't know what to do with the statement. What do you do with the statement when you're anticipating a feeling-based statement and what comes out is a thought? Think about it. What do you do with sometimes I feel like you don't love me? Or I feel like you don't understand me? It's challenging to respond to. So if we can step back, and obviously you're not going to be able to do it when you're in the heat of the conversation or the discussion, but we can look at it after the fact. And in the looking, we bring awareness to the experience. And by bringing awareness to the experience, we lessen the probability that we're going to do it again. We increase the probability that we will speak more clearly, more genuinely. And what's our goal? What is the goal? So what? Why do I want to speak clearly or more genuinely? Well, I want to speak as clear as possible in distinguishing feelings from thoughts so that the other person can know me better. And in the process, I get to know me better as well. There's great value in that. So if we look at it again one more time, a simple statement that's very common nowadays to attach a feeling to what is actually a thought. I feel like this person doesn't understand me, or I feel like she doesn't love me. And then we say that's not a thought, we say that's not a feeling, it's a thought. And then the follow-up is, when I believe the thought that he doesn't understand me, I feel blank, sad, ignored, unhappy, joyous, depending on the situation. And then the other example that I just gave was, sometimes I feel like she doesn't love me. Well, that's a thought, not a feeling. And when I believe the thought, she doesn't love me, I feel blank, blank, blank. And if you practice this a few times, listen, the technique of communicating this way is very prevalent in our society these days. You can hear it on the news all the time, especially on the radio when there's two radio hosts and they're interacting with each other or they're having a conversation about something. You may know someone in your life who communicates this way on a regular basis. It's not wrong. It's not right or wrong. It's all about, it's more about clarity, about getting to know oneself, about clarity in communication, separating thoughts from feelings so that I can better know me and so that you can better know me. And in that, when we strip away the fog and we strip away the cloudiness and the things that muddy up our dialogue and our interaction, we gradually and slowly start to learn how to communicate in a more genuine or a more authentic manner. We learn to communicate with clarity, and we learn to do what I would call speaking our truth. When I say I feel like you don't understand me, or I feel like he doesn't understand me, that's based up in here. That's heady thinking stuff. And it's very difficult, as I said, to respond to. But when I say, I think he doesn't understand me, and when I think he doesn't understand me, I feel sad, and I want to shut down, and I feel rejected. Well, that gives me something I can work with now. That gives the recipient something they can work with. They can do something with that. Their response is going to be, well, I don't want her to feel sad. I don't want her to feel hurt. I don't want her to want to move away from me. And then they can take action. They can start to look at themselves. So it opens up the door simply because it clears away the muddiness. It makes it a very clear communication. Here's the thought I'm having, and here's the feelings that I have about that thought. As opposed to combining them and mixing them and going, hey, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what I can do with that. It can be a very powerful tool. Doesn't have to be shared with anyone. Can be used for introspection. Can be used to help us better understand ourselves.